The No Nonsense Roundtable, a weekly radio show and podcast where host Dom Genova interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. And now, here's your host, Dom Genova.
Welcome everybody to a special edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, as always, every Saturday, and I like to remind you the previous shows are all on nonsenseroundtable.com. And today it's a special day or a special weekend coming up because it's Memorial Day weekend. And as you know, I like to highlight the contributions that our wonderful people in service have made to the country, but also local groups who have something that you might want to know about. And that's one of the things we have today. But also a little bit of the history of Memorial Day, because Memorial Day is more than having hot dogs and hamburgers and hanging out at the pool. There's a very interesting story about how it got started, what it means, and to that point, on the phone right now, I have Chuck Baylis, and Chuck Baylis is with the Military History Society of Rochester. And first, we're going to talk a little bit about that organization because they have some really cool things, and then we're going to go into this story about how Memorial Day all got started. So, Chuck, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get over there since you told me months ago that you had a Norden bomb site there. I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what that is, but that's really cool.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and there was a lot of local history to go along with that. I mean, the Norden bomb site was, the precision bomb site that was used by all the heavy and medium bombers during World War II. But Auchinleck, Kodak, and Wollensack all worked on optics, for that bomb site. And there are strong indications that Hawkeye plant, we know they machined some casings for them, but there's also some strong indications that they may have assembled some, here in Rochester as well at Kodak.
Well, let's explain to the people that may not be familiar the actual significance of this bomb site. Now, as I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it was a bomb site that was probably a precursor to a computer these days. You would go in and dial in the speed, the altitude, the wind direction, and the bomber itself would be turned over to the bombardier, right? I mean, at that point, the pilot's not flying the plane, right? Isn't that the way it works?
Well, sort of. The Norden bomb site itself was actually an analog computer.
Mm-hmm.
And Carl Norden, who was kind of an eccentric genius, Dutch citizen, educated in Switzerland, he worked for the Navy. The Navy decided that they needed something, as aircraft was coming in for a bomb site. But the calculations for for where would a bomb actually hit when you dropped it was very complex. So with a series of cams and gears and rotating discs, he built an analog computer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one dialed in all those variables, and the bomb site itself would calculate where that bomb should be dropped to hit the target. So during a bomb run, the bombardier actually did take over control of the plane, but would send through the bomb site, send indications to the pilot as to how to keep it on course. So the pilot was responsible for keeping altitude and speed, and then correcting course according to the instructions from the bombardier. And later in the war, there was a full autopilot, which actually took total control.
And all the time you have flak going off in front of your plane, and evasive moving is not exactly something that you're going to do while you're on this bomb run, right?
Well, you can't. I mean, once you commit to that bomb run, you're going in, and you have to face all odds. Be it flak, be it fighters, whatever. once the bombs were dropped, of course, then they could do a lot more. But it was one of those things where you had to, fly into the face of danger.
Mm. God bless those guys that did that. The thing is that before the Norden bomb site, I heard explained you'd let the bombs go and you have no idea what field they're gonna drop in. It was like our secret weapon. Somebody said.
Yes, that it actually has been said that, and what what the saying was at the time is that you could put a bomb into a pickle barrel from 20,000 feet. Now, that didn't always happen, of course, because, things like clouds and weather and, wind and whatever all got in the way. But it was by far, in a way, the best bomb site that there was during World War II.
And when these guys are flying, I mean, the bombers are not pressurized, so they're how many degrees below zero up there, and their breath is freezing into their face masks, and the face masks are feeding them oxygen because there's no oxygen up there. And I have to tell you, I mean, it had to be a horrifying experience, especially to the belly, the ball turret. Gun on the bottom. Yes. My God. I mean, it's just a terrifying experience. Now, anybody who doesn't know what that is, there's a on the bottom of the plane. It's a ball turret, but what is it? Was it belly ball turret? What was the name for that thing?
Yeah, the ball turret.
The ball turret.
Yeah, and that was one where once they were in the air, the ball turret was actually lowered, and the bomb the gunner had to crawl down into it, basically in a fetal position, so that he would do that as they entered the enemy airspace, and he would stay there until they exited the enemy airspace. And of course, it was an extremely vulnerable position under the bottom, but it was one of those things that, again, I think took, certainly a lot of courage to step down in to know what you were going to be facing.
Well, I've heard of cases where the plane lost its ability to use its landing gear, and the guy he knew he was going to be gone. There was nothing else you could do. I mean,
yes.
Talk about terrifying things, right?
Right. Yeah, Andy Rooney had a story about that, where one that he had actually witnessed, where that actually had happened, where the landing gear did not work, and they were unable to retract the ball turret, so they had to land on top of it.
God Almighty.
They talked to the guy all the way down, knowing what was going to happen.
God Almighty. Boy, thank God that that generation was that generation. So let's get to a couple of lighter things. Tell me more about the things that you have in your display, and then we're going to get a little bit into the history of Memorial Day.
Great. Yeah, Military History Society of Rochester was started 20 years ago, and with the goal of preserving Rochester's heritage, military heritage. I mean, before we did this, there was nothing around here that actually honored, servicemen in that way. We're the only place really between Buffalo and Albany that has anything like this. So we have a great deal of artifacts. Of course, not everything is going to be Rochester based, but a lot of it is. We have a whole section of products that were made in Rochester and Monroe County for the military. And again, that is it's far and above what most people ever really think about, as how much stuff that was actually made here, during conflicts, going all the way back to the Civil War. There was a firm down on State Street, a leather goods firm, that made leather goods for Civil War soldiers. So from there, in World War I, of course, tremendous amount of optics, because Bausch & Lomb was the first company in the U.S. to make usable optical glass. And so a lot of optics came up, and then in World War II, virtually everybody did something for the military.
Yep. Well, Kodak too. I mean, the SR-71. I mean, the high-flying spy plane. I mean, all the optics for that, and the U2 and everything. That all had to come somehow or other from Kodak, right? I mean, that was filmed back
Absolutely.
then.
Absolutely.
That was all filmed back then.
That's correct.
Yes. That's.
But even going beyond that, I mean, what a lot of people don't know about Kodak is during World War II, they made hand grenades.
Okay.
And they also made over 2 million radio proximity fuses for anti-aircraft.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just film and cameras. Yeah. It was a lot of other things. Yeah. So
for those who don't know, a radio proximity fuse is that you don't actually have to hit what you're aiming at exactly. If it gets within a certain range, the ammunition will explode. So that helps you get into the general area of, well, it's like a hand grenade. You don't have to be all that accurate in a hand grenade.
Right.
You just have to get close. That was a proximity fuse. You know, there's another piece of trivia I want to talk about. You know, they realized that they found out how the radiation from atomic bombs affected the fallout by the effect that it had on Kodak film across the country that would be downwind. They found out there were defectives or there was some type of contamination in the film, and that's why they knew when atomic bombs went off. We were testing bombs.
Yes. Yeah. Again, one of those little known things that, again, it was kind of discovered by accident.
Yeah.
Just because, of issues with that film. Yes.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit about this Memorial Day thing, because the vets are I never served, but I have so much respect for people who put their lives and their fortunes in harm's way in defense of the country. And the thing about Memorial Day is that I'm looking at this and a couple of things over the years. I mean, I went to a very nice parade once with the veterans, there, and the high school marching band is as these veterans, these people who dedicated their lives, and a lot of them were in the war, the Korean War, and I used to take in my convertible a gentleman who was a commander of a submarine in the Pacific during the Second World War, and his name Mr. Bruckle. I mean, these are great guys, right? And the band is playing "Meet the Flintstones" as these guys are marching down. It's like, no, this is a little more solemn than this.
Yes.
I mean, they just don't. They just don't know, and so I want to give everybody a little bit of education about how this came about, because it originally was Decoration Day. It was to and then that was just for the Union soldiers, right? I mean, Decoration Day.
No.
Oh, really? Okay, go ahead.
No.
Then
Actually,
educate me.
All right. Actually, it started in the South for Confederate soldiers.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes, and I mean during the Civil War, many of the ladies' auxiliaries, or wives of the soldiers, would go and decorate the graves, in memorial and to remember those. And according to the National Cemetery, Society, the first true Memorial Day was held actually in Columbus, Mississippi.
Wow. And
then throughout, once that started, other states kind of picked it up, and that was, then in 1868, Commander Logan of the GAR put out a proclamation that May 30th would be a day of remembrance for all soldiers, not so Union as well, of course. And then, of course, it grew from there. And in 1873, New York State adopted it. And by the 1890s, virtually every other state had as well. But then it was changed from Decoration Day, which was to go out and to honor the graves of those that had fallen, to Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then when in 1970s, an act was passed for national holidays, making Memorial Day, the last Monday in May.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were very upset with that because, a lot of veterans organizations, because May 30th had been that traditional day,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the day of remembrance. But now it was whatever date that happened to be that Monday. And so now it kind of lost some of its significance and it became more of a holiday than it did a Remembrance Day.
Well, one of the things that we need to do with this show is encourage people to go to the parades, because some of the services are wonderfully solemn. They are respectful. It shows community. Everybody gets together right around the late part of the afternoon, and it is a way of, well, there are two things here. One, it's a way of remembrance, but the other thing is we have to remember that, yes, there is Veterans Day to honor a veteran, but also there's Memorial Day not only to honor the people that have given their lives, but the people that show up that are veterans that are marching in the parade or they've contributed to society, and just see them and say thank you. I mean, thank you.
Yes.
Eternally grateful to people who have their lives and their fortune on the line for us.
Yes. Well, there's, Rochester again has, a lot of history, with veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And during the Civil War, there were over 18,000 from Monroe County who served in the volunteers and more in the national units. And when you consider that there was only a population of 100,000 at that time, 18,000 is a very large percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And there were hundreds, of course, that were killed during that conflict. Probably, the most famous one, that, or at least in Rochester history, would be Patrick O'Rourke,
Mm-hmm.
who was killed on the second day of Gettysburg.
Oh, wow.
Leading his troops down Little Round Top, which is
Yes.
an action that actually saved, the victory, for the Union at Gettysburg.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably saved the Union. It was like a scissor attack, wasn't it? They kind of they pivoted on a corner, and
right.
caught the Confederates. They caught the Confederates in a very bad position.
Well, the Confederates were coming up the hill, and O'Rourke took his men down the hill.
Right.
Even though they were very short on ammunition, they did what was really essentially a bayonet charge.
Yeah, more back then. So let's give everybody a little bit more, a little education about the veterans and Arlington National Cemetery, how that came about.
Well, of course, in the outbreak of the Civil War, Robert E. Lee was offered command of the Union Army.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned that down to go back to Virginia, which Virginia was his home. Of course, Arlington was in Virginia. And to go to the South. Later during the war, Arlington itself, which was his home, his wife's home, was taken over by the Union Army and used, as I think a hospital for a time period. But then with the deaths, they started burying, the soldiers there on the grounds, and it was convenient because of where they were, but also it was really an attempt to make sure that that property never went back to Robert E. Lee. You know, and of course, Arlington being what it is now, in the National Cemetery, you know, that has a long tradition. And of course, on Memorial Day, you know, the laying of the wreath for the tomb of the unknown soldier. So again, it's one of those things that, again, for those who've never been, it's a trip worthwhile.
Well, it's sacred ground.
Yes. Sacred
ground. And I think a lot of people don't understand that was Robert E. Lee's estate. And
that's correct.
And they ran out of places to bury the Union soldiers, and they said, let's bury him on Robert E. Lee's estate. He's never going to be able to come home.
Correct. Yes.
So with that, happy Memorial Day. Thank you for coming on the show. I have to come over and see that Norden bomb site at one of the secret weapons of the Second World War.
Yes.
And all the other good stuff that you have. So it's been a while. Now, let's tell everybody how we get in touch with you, your website address, and your address.
Yep. We're located at 250 North Goodman Street, which is the Anderson Arts Building on the corner of Anderson and North Goodman Street. We're up on the second floor. We have about 4,000 square feet of exhibition space.
Oh.
You know, we run from War of 1812 up to current times. And again, we have a tremendous amount of local history, you know, but we honor all all times and all branches, you know, throughout the wars. And it isn't just really about war. It's about remembering that sacrifices that those people made that actually, you know, did serve in conflict. And again, there are many stories, Rochester stories, you know, that we can lead people through. But we have a lot of very interesting, unusual artifacts, you know, things that people haven't generally seen. So again, you know, you got to come up and see it. Our website is rochestermilitary.org, and we're open every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from noon to 4, and on the first Friday of each month till 9 o'clock at night.
Well, Chuck, thank you ever so much for coming in. It was enlightening. I always feel that if I learn something on my show, there's other people that are listening that learn something on my show too. So thank you ever so much, and I will absolutely see you this weekend. Thank you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Very good. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find our previous shows at nononsenseroundtable.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.